Hi guys, very welcome to Mentour and yet another video podcast. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic out there. So, today on the podcast, we'll be talking about this thing, your pilot bag. What do you have inside of it? What do you need to have inside of it? And what are just a really good idea to have with you? So, stay tuned. Right guys, so the pilot bag. So to start off with, your company might be issuing you with a pilot bag, and in that case you don't have to choose it, okay? But if you do have to choose it, there are a couple of things that you should be thinking about. First of all, I would recommend you guys to not save money on your pilot bag, okay? And the reason for that is that you are very likely to have to pull this around for a very long time. Okay, you're going to be throwing it in and out of the cockpit. You're going to be pulling it to your crew room. You're going to be, carrying it through the terminal building, stuff like that. So it's a good idea if it's a good quality thing, because otherwise it will be annoying for a very long time rather than helping you for a long time. Okay. Size-wise, as you can see, this one is not very big. This is absolutely bang full now, and it's about 45 centimeters wide and about 55-60 centimeters in length, and this is about the biggest size that you can actually take, because you are going to want to put this down next to you in the cockpit, okay, next to the pilot chair. And if you're flying a 737, there's not a lot of room there. Actually, it's a bit taller than this, but not much wider. So if it becomes wider than this, you are going to start touching it as you're moving your pilot chair in and out of position, and that is not a nice thing. So keep it reasonably in about this size. All right. I would also recommend you to make sure that it can be pulled, because if not, you are going to be carrying it around. You tend to carry it with your right or your left arm, and you're going to start having problems both with your shoulders and with your back, because it's going to be quite a lot of kilometers that you're pulling these things around. All right. When it comes to what you have to have inside, I'm going to bring you through all of that right now, but we're going to go through it in sections. So what you have in the front, easy access, and then what I at least keep in the different compartments. And obviously this is going to be my flight bag, and the way I do it, you might have a different kind of perspective on what you should be having where, but at least it's an indication. So if we start with the front then, the kind of easy access small thing. The most important thing that you have to carry with you is this, okay? These are a folder that contains my passport that you always have to have with you, and it's a good idea that you have a passport that has at least 6-month validity in it. So make sure you have that, because some countries will actually require you to have at least 6-month validity on your passport. Then, of course, you need to have all of your licenses, your type ratings, your instrument rating, your medical certificate that has to be valid, of course. You might have to have visas, and you might have to have certificates of which vaccines you have taken, okay? So some airlines will be flying to a lot of countries that require you to have taken certain vaccines. Now your airline is going to inform you about which vaccines that you need to have taken, okay? So that will work itself out. But make sure that all of these are with you and that they are valid. That's going to be up to you, and the reason that is really important is that you might at any given time when you're out flying somewhere be stopped, and the aircraft might be subjected to what's called a SAFA inspection, which is a search of a foreign aircraft inspection. And they are then checking that all of the flight crew and the cabin crew have their valid licenses with them, that the aircraft has their valid paperwork, and all of these things. So make sure that you have it and easy to access. On top of that, what I have inside of here is a couple of earplugs. So during the walk around, this can be quite noisy. It's a lot of fuel trucks moving around. You're in the wheel well. There's a lot of pumps going and stuff like that. So it's good to have some earplugs to look after your hearing. Also, my company is using an iPad as an electronic flight bag, which means that we have to be able to charge it. So make sure you have a charger and charger cable with you. In our case, it's actually a legal requirement that the iPad is charged to at least 70% battery power before we start our duty. So, but still, if you do a long day, you are going to have to charge it anyway. All right, on top of that, obviously, I have a number of pens with me. Make sure they're good quality pens. You don't have to have the absolutely most expensive ones, because you will leave a few of these in the cockpit, I can guarantee you that. but have some good ones, because if they're not good, remember that they're going to be subjected to quite a lot of pressure changes. And if there's really cheap pens, you might want to start writing and it's just a blob of ink coming out. So some quite good pens. I prefer black ink, because if you have to scan something afterwards, or report or whatever it might be, then black ink is better visible than blue ink. Right, I also carry some medicaments, right? Some easy, like ibuprofens or paracetamol or whatever it might be, because you never know when you just get a headache when you're flying, and this can relieve that. Just make sure to always, if you're using any kind of medicines, that you have checked that you can actually use them. And if you don't want to be absolutely sure, you contact your flight doctor, your aeronautical medical examiner, and he or she will be able to tell you what kind of medicaments you're allowed to take while you're flying. I also use some nose spray with, if you get a cold, or if you have a slight cold but it's not that bad, but suddenly you feel that your sinuses are blocking up or your ears are blocking up, that can be the savior of the day. All right. So on top of that, I only have some little kinks like lanyards and stuff that might be good to have with you, which brings us to our first big compartment. All right. Here in the front, I am carrying my iPad, which is my company's electronic flight logbook, or my electronic flight book. It contains all of our not all of our licenses, but all of our plates, our manuals, our performance calculating tools. All of that is carried within this. So this obviously is very important that you keep well care of. You see this one has a quite good protection to it, which is company issued, but look after your electronic flight bag, guys. It's very important. On top of that, I also have a Pinto board. Okay, this is something that you're going to have during your initiation of your line training, and actually it's a good idea to keep one of those with you so that you can put your paper flight plans, any other documents that you might need, somewhere where you can reach them handy. All right. I would recommend you that you get a plastic one. I know that there are quite a lot of metallic ones out there. The problem with the metallic ones is that you are going to put your flight bag here and you're going to put it up on the dashboard next to your windshield, okay? The metallic ones can actually scratch the inside of the cockpit window. So you don't want that to happen, so just use a plastic one. That's my tip, anyway. Okay, that brings us into the next big compartment. Now, in here, I have, for example, my high-vis vest. Okay, so why do you need a high-vis vest? Well, in every airport you go to all over the world, you are going to be required to have a high-vis vest on whenever you are on the apron. Okay, passengers are exempted for that because they are being marshaled onto and off the aircraft. But you, as a professional that's working on the airport, are going to have a high-vis vest. And if you don't, you might actually get fined for not having one. So make sure you have your high-vis vest with you. On top of that, I also have my flashlight, which is, well, I always have two flashlights with me actually, but this is for your walk around. At night time you're going to have to do walk arounds and you will not see it properly unless you have a proper flashlight with you. And you're not allowed to use the flashlights that are in the cockpit. Those are for emergency use only. So have your own flashlight with you, and no, your mobile phone flashlight is not good enough. So on top of that, I also have a pair of spare glasses. Okay. Now, why is that, you might ask? Well, it's because I have a limitation in my medical certificate, which is that I have to wear glasses. Okay. Now, if I wear my glasses and these breaks, I have to have a backup plan, and the spare pair of glasses is that backup plan. So this is actually a legal requirement. If you do have glasses in your medical, you need to have a spare one with you. And also make sure that you have a good pair of sunglasses with you. Now, I cannot overemphasize that because it gets really, really bright inside of the cockpit. And especially when you're flying in cloud, actually, the cloud kind of dissipates all the light, so it gets extremely bright, and you need to have a good pair of sunglasses with you. Now, on top of that, I also have an umbrella. So, for the same reason as I have my earplugs, if I'm doing a walk around and it's, pouring down with rain, it's a good idea to have an umbrella with you so you don't get wet. I also carry some spare socks and some spare underwear. Now, in my airline, we don't do overnights. Like, we are always scheduled to get back home at the end of our duty, but you never know when you might end up with having a tech stop for example, or your company might need you to stay over in a hotel and fly somewhere else than you expected. In that case, it's a good idea to have a pair of underwear, a pair of socks, some deodorant, and a toothbrush with you at least, so that you can kind of refreshen yourself. But this is an emergency kit, okay? That's because over my career, I've only overnighted maybe 3 times so far. So I have it there, but it's very rarely used. On top of that, I only have some little knickknacks in the middle section, which brings us to the big section at the back. Now, in the big section at the back, as you might have guessed, I have my Bose A20 headset, all right? The headset, as you can see, is fairly bulky. This is why I need a quite big compartment in the back to carry it with me. And with that, I also have some spare batteries. So the A20 uses AA batteries, so I always have a package of AA batteries with me. Now, your company, and I've talked about this in a separate podcast, your company will issue with every aircraft a pair of headsets. Okay, so there needs to be headsets for all the pilots in the cockpit. However, they only need to be the most basic headsets there are. Okay, a couple of TLX ones, for example. I always recommend you to have a good headset, especially if you're about to start training. And the reason for that is that it will take down your stress level, it will take down your fatigue level. And if you are struggling in the beginning with your RT, then this is going to help you to hear better what air traffic control is telling you, and make it easy for you to respond. So get yourself a good pair of headset. I've seen a huge difference between cadets coming in that has a good headset and people who does not have a good headset. So if your economy allows it, then get a good headset. Now, what else do we have in here? Well, of course, everyone has a Mentour 360 cap, which is something that is required. No, I don't really know why that is there, so we're just going to leave that. No, something that I do carry though is a screw-on cup. Okay. Now, you might ask yourself why, right? And this is different between different companies, but in my company, this is a requirement in case you want a cup of coffee and you want to have it in the flight deck. So the reason for that is that there's been a lot of problems with spills in the cockpit. And if you have an open cup of coffee and you manage to spill it with some turbulence over the central pedestal where all of the radio boxes and stuff are, that is going to cause quite a lot of problems. So my airline has said you are free to have coffees in the cockpit, but they have to be with a screw-on lid. All right, that is to protect both you and protect the aircraft from damage that could be avoided. So have one of these. I'm guessing that most airlines have similar rules when it comes to that. And that, guys, is pretty much what I have in my flight bag. Now, you might have noticed that one thing is missing, and that's the logbook. The logbook is not a requirement to have with you, okay? You have to be able to show your logbook in case the authorities would ask for it, or if your company asks for it, but you don't need to carry it with you, okay? And I actually prefer not carrying with me because you never know when you lose the flight bag for whatever reason, or it gets stolen or something like that. I keep my my logbook in a very safe place, and I've had questions about this as well. Make sure that you take safety copies of it. Do maybe scan the last 3 or 5 pages in your logbook at regular intervals and store that somewhere else, or have an electronic logbook that you have backups to in case you would lose it. Right, guys, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this one about what pilots have in their bags. So now next time you see a pilot going over the apron with one of these, you know approximately what they have. They might have some differences, but it's going to be very similar. Guys, I also want to remind you to make sure that you download the Mentour Aviation app. It's completely free to download, and we are creating an absolutely fantastic community in there where people are asking questions, helping each other out in the chat. We're doing some upgrades to the chat, so making it better. And there are also some nice playlists that I put together, which includes essential knowledge that you guys should have, but also some playlists that I have for sale. For example, how to set up the 737 from dark to a taxi, how to handle an engine failure after takeoff, and many other things like that. So if you haven't already, download it, check it out, go into the chat and enjoy. For now, as always, I'm hoping that you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.